Reva University video.
The future is always indefinite, complex, scary, and changing. Every aspect is now moving at a faster rate than ever. Be it education, entertainment, work, technology, and even lifestyle, making it harder to predict of what is to come every day, every minute, and every second. And this is why we need the young minds to absorb the right information, creating a new breed of world-class engineers trained to design the next big thing. Artistic architects who understand the need for sustainability and the much-needed socially responsible lawmakers. Let's not forget the brilliant graduates of commerce, science and technology, management and arts. But where? Reva University is your answer, a place where young minds collide with superior knowledge, creating a superior mark in the private university space with unique educational methods based on experiential learning and knowledge exchange through interactive sessions. Also, providing you with the opportunity to switch to a desired curriculum and interdisciplinary studies of your choice at any time. A broad spectrum of extracurricular activities like sports, dance, various clubs, and so on are available for you to pursue. Not just that, Reva also promises a fantastic university experience with a calm, peaceful, and diverse campus, encouraging students from all over the world. With state-of-the-art laboratories, latest sports facilities, well-equipped media centers, a library that fulfills its tag as an extensive knowledge bank, and hostels that make you feel at home with tasty food that's nutritious. The future is now easier with the light from some of the best minds and with friendships that last a lifetime. You now have the power to choose an outstanding future. Reva University, one association for many great careers.
I Buriyankaya, School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Reva University, Bangalore. On behalf of organizing committee, it's my pleasure to welcome resource person of the day, Dr. Shashidhar G. Kulagudi. Dr. Shashidhar G. Kulagudi completed bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from Karnataka University, Dharwad in 1995, master's degree in CSIT from Bengal Engineering and Science University, now IIEST Indian Institute of Engineering Science and Technology, Shibpur, Howrah, West Bengal in 2005, and obtained PhD degree from IIT Kharagpur in the year 2011. He has 22 years of experience in teaching and presently serving as Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering NITK Surathkal. His area of interest includes speech and audio processing, image processing, machine learning, intelligence. He has guided 3 PhDs and is guiding nine PhD students at NITK Surathkal. He has written 3 books and has more than 180 research publications, which includes peer-reviewed index journals, flagship conferences, and book chapters. He has 1,908 citations and is H-index of 20. He has completed 3 research projects: DST, SCRB, CSRI, and 1 project is ongoing. He is regular reviewer for IEEE transactions, reputed journals, and is a member of IEEE, IET, IEI, ISTE. He has delivered expert talks in national, international conferences, workshops, and symposiums. On behalf of everyone, I welcome you to the session, sir. We are waiting for the talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for wonderful words said about me. Shall I present the slides now?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Good afternoon to all of you friends. I think it's my privilege to be one amongst you to share today some of my ideas about machine learning or what actually happens once we make machines, means computers, learn the concepts. So there are so many things before we exactly start technical things of making machines learning. So in this talk of around 1 hour, I will be discussing what is the meaning of machine learning or what is the meaning of learning, how we call some entities as intelligent, and what are the attributes of intelligent entities while they learn. Are we thinking in a similar directions once we think of machine learning? So all these basic things will be discussed. And majority of the things I discuss are known to all of you. I know that it's a heterogeneous group, starting from BTech students to doctorates. Whatever the group may be, but once I ask certain questions, those questions are studied in your, the answers to those questions were studied in your high schools or plus two, something like that. So I'll not be covering anything new other than what you had not studied. So once I ask certain questions, feel free to answer whatever you feel like about that question. Even if you had not studied, you can guess it and you can participate in the discussion. I do not know whether organizers have given option to every attendee to unmute his or her microphone and get into interaction. If it is not done, you can type your questions in the chat box. Organizers can ask that question then and there itself to me. I may not be able to see your questions typed on a chat box because of full screen slideshow mode. But some kind of interaction is always good. That's one thing. That is when I ask the questions. Similarly, if you find certain doubts, questions, you can also ask me the questions then and there itself, so that we can properly build the rest of the talk. So in this talk, I am planning to cover what is machine learning. If you think of some 15-20 years back, the field of computer science or electrical sciences had got one core subject in their curriculum during BTech or BE, whatever it is. That is artificial intelligence. Once we have artificial intelligence, we also must have natural intelligence that is there. So this artificial intelligence, or the intelligence which is built artificially, was mainly focused on the intelligence which was built on computers. Wherever we come across this field of artificial intelligence, a tiny computer or some computer used to be there as a backbone, and it used to cater to the needs of intelligence or machine, whatever it is. Take, for example, your today's washing machine, today's iron box. They are semi-intelligent machines. There is a chip which is built inside, and it takes decision based on the inputs of certain sensors. It may be a temperature sensor. It may be the options that you give to the machine. Say, for example, while you are washing, you want to wash your clothes. You give option like they are cotton cloths, they are woolen cloths, or you also will give some inputs like anti-grease or soaking or heavy wash or quick wash, something like that. They take this input and accordingly they set the behavior of a machine, and machine will perform you as per your needs, and it will give you the output. So it is intelligent, but it takes certain inputs, and its intelligence is based on the inputs that it takes. Fine. But once you think natural intelligent entities like human beings, intelligence is not exactly like that. In the beginning, while the child is very small, of 2 years, 3 years, it takes the instructions and accordingly it does. But the moment a child becomes little experienced, like 3.5 years, 4 years, once it sees different examples of the same scenario, it will not simply follow what instructions are given. It the child wants to test what it has known, whether it is right or not. You ask child not to play with water, still it enjoys playing with the water. A small child, during walking, you ask not to run fast so that it may fall and get hurt, but still it runs, falls, and understands, and then it corrects. That is the attribute of learning. That is the attribute of learning. What are the other attributes of learning you have observed in case of natural intelligent entities? Can any one of you tell? What are the other attributes of learning? How do you say that human beings are learning something? Or just to relate it to the term intelligent, whenever we say some entity intelligent, it has got certain capability to learn. The one which has got capability to learn, that only is intelligent. So if you take an example, human beings in this context, what are your observations regarding attributes of learning? Why do you say that human beings are intelligent and they learn? What do they learn? How do they learn? Any comments?
Sir,
Hmm.
one of learning by experience has been replied by one of the professors.
Yes, very good. It's a great answer. Learning by experience. As I was explaining, once we start getting certain incidents, we gain certain experience. From those experience, we learn. Another name for experience is doing mistakes, committing mistakes. We commit mistakes, or while we do something, we do it, we see the result is not as expected because some mistakes have been committed, then we correct those mistakes and we go ahead. A person who may, please.
The trial and error.
Trial and error is another thing. It is the same. Whenever we do not have any option, then what we do? Simply we try some random options. If those random options work, that's a learning for us. This works, this doesn't work. In this situation, it works. In this situation, it doesn't work. Fine, good. Then when the person makes more mistakes, we call him as more experienced. Committing mistakes is another scenario of being experienced, right? Similarly, um, we learn from examples. That's also said. We learn from examples. If we have more number of examples, probably our learning will be more accurate and more fine-tuned. Fine. So, are you observing similar attributes? There are so many other attributes of learning by natural entities, but let us not take all of them because the scope of this lecture is not that. But some of them we have understood now. That is learning by doing mistakes, learning by experience, learning from examples, then learning by trial and error, all those things. But do you think the way today we are using computers, they also show the same attributes of learning? Yes or no? Some answers I'm expecting. Do we observe similar learning attributes from machines, trace machines? Machines, I mean computers. Once I say machine, I'm talking about computer. I'm referring computers.
Answer is no, sir. All replied no.
Yeah, good. Why is it not like that? I will give one simple example. Whatever advancements we have achieved in the field of computer science, programming and all, still majority of our interaction with the computers or majority of the ways that computer works for us is algorithmic. Means if I want my computer to do something for me, I write an algorithm, I convert it into code, I feed it output. Majority of 99% of our activities, even if we say machines are learning, they are algorithmic in nature. Fine. Do you think human beings are algorithmic in nature while we do certain tasks? Are we algorithmic in doing certain tasks? Say, for example, morning we wake up and come to college, do our duties, and go back. Whether all the activities what we do in a day, can we define them algorithmically, and you can follow the algorithms, and it will be very nice outcome at the end of the day? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Answer is again no. Answer is again no. We cannot algorithmically work because we are intelligent. A broad abstract level algorithm is almost always there, like morning we wake up by this time, then we brush, then we freshen up, then we eat breakfast, come to college, take class, go home, have dinner or take rest. This is a abstract or a broader level set of tasks that we want to do, we have to do probably in sequence in a day. But definitely the task or the way these are executed is not algorithmic. Say for example, morning I am coming from my home in Kottagenahalli to Reva. I'm waiting for the bus. You know, timings are very strict. My first bus is missed. Second bus is late. There is a traffic jam in between. Suddenly, my friend calls. He or she is also going by a car, and she offers me a lift. My plan in the morning was to move by bus, but now a person is offering me a lift in a car. I take a decision there itself and I move to a car and I come to college. I reach college well in advance, 5 minutes before, even if I was 15 minutes late while I start. Next day, thinking that I may get some car lifts, I will not be delayed by 15 minutes. Probably I will start 5 or 10 minutes earlier because yesterday I missed a bus. These are all pragmatic activities which human beings think and take decisions there itself. I prepare for the exam, I go to exam hall, question paper comes in my hand, all the questions are from the portion which I have not read. Question paper has been set by somebody else. Teacher had given some most likely questions. Those most likely questions have not come. What will I do? Simply will I come out? I try to relate something which I have read probably in other subject or wherever it is. I might have studied it 2 years before. And I write the answers to the question. These are all attributes of human based learning or learning in case of natural entities. Obviously, the learning is not algorithmic in nature. We are not following specific algorithm to execute certain things. Take an example of going to post office and posting a letter. If I have to write an algorithm to do that, then I have to write move out of your room, turn right, walk these many steps, take a lift, press floor number 3, come out of the lift, turn left, walk this much distance, go to the main gate, sign there in the register, all steps to reach up to post office. Then do whatever activity is there for each activity, one instruction, then follow all the instructions back in the reverse way to reach my place. This is the algorithm. But if I give my I give a letter to my daughter of 10 years, she will not follow this algorithm. She starts moving. Probably she starts by walk. Then she thinks if I can take a bicycle. She moves by bicycle. She takes a shortcut. In between, she want to meet her friend and exchange her notes. That also she will do, and she will come back after doing the job. So any activity that we do in real world situation, broadly an abstract list or sequence of activities are known, but while we implement them, we do not follow algorithmic approach. Unfortunately, almost all activities the computers are doing for us are algorithmic in nature. And what we are trying to do is we want to make them as intelligent as we are. Is it possible? Is it possible? Yes or no? Some answers. Is it Sagar who was responding earlier?
No, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Continue, sir.
No. That's what. Are there any answers? Are you Sagar, isn't it?
No, sir. Anka, yes, sir. No, sure.
Ankai.
No,
So are there any answers from the participants, Ankai?
no, sir. Up to now, no.
They have under confusion now what to answer.
Previously, each and every respected participant they answered, sir.
Yeah, fine. So now what I asked question is, our computers are algorithmic in nature and intelligence, the attribute of intelligence is not algorithmic in nature, but we want to make our computers intelligent. Is it possible? Was my question. Obviously, you are confused because we are making computers intelligent. You cannot say no. And you cannot say yes also because I have counter argument for that. Anyway, it is fine.
We got one answer, sir. Maybe.
Maybe that's what intelligent answer. So normally it is not possible with this approach. Again, what we can do is we can write one more algorithm through which machine learns, and we can say that machine has got artificial intelligence now and it can do something. Examples for that are, you might have heard about Deep Blue. What is Deep Blue? Deep Blue, BLUE. Anybody has heard? Even you can Google and give answer. What is it?
Sir, it was a chess game that was based on some ancient Chinese chess game, right?
Yeah, it is just playing software. Deep Blue is just playing software. But specialty of Deep Blue is it defeated Gary Kasparov. Gary Kasparov, you know, is a Russian grandmaster. Grandmaster is supposed to be the best player in the world. This Deep Blue has defeated Gary Kasparov. And you know, chess is intelligent game. As this Deep Blue software defeated the most wise chess playing grandmaster in the world, do you say that computers are more intelligent than human beings? We cannot say so. The reason is computers are very perfect in storing something and retrieving that contents from the memory, where human beings are not. It's obvious because if something we have seen 10 years before, 15 years before, we feel like we have seen, but we will not be able to recall it immediately. But simply one button open will give you everything, even if you have stored 10 years before into computer's memory. So this memory, tremendous memory power, helps your computer to take decisions properly during playing. It is nothing but another algorithm. Deep Blue is another algorithm which has recorded all possible moves, and it will choose the best move based on certain quantitative approach. It would be difficult for human beings to do because human beings cannot think and remember those many options at a time in their mind. That is the reason why Deep Blue has won. But again, it was algorithmic approach. Now slowly we want to make our machines intelligent, means we should think some other ways of training the machines than algorithmic approaches. Obviously, it is not that easy. Maybe according to today's technology, it is not possible. Again, we have to write some exhaustive algorithms. Those algorithms have to do all these things as if they are not algorithmic approaches. So this first slide talks about that. Initially, AI in 1990s was started with some basic algorithms like A star algorithm, Evo star algorithm, then hill climbing, annealing. Those who have studied Align and Rich, artificial intelligence Align and Rich, Patterson book, they know all these things. Not knowing these things is not a sin, don't worry. But later we thought that algorithmic approach will not work to make an entity really intelligent. So a paradigm shift has happened in the field of artificial intelligence. Now we are calling the same thing as machine learning. It's not just artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a broader umbrella, and machine learning is a specific entity there where we are talking only about how to make machines learn. Fine. So total shift has happened. Now we are thinking of process of learning is not a non-algorithmic, where it was algorithmic earlier. So how are we trying to do it? Say for example, data mining field. We have a huge data now. There is no scarcity of data. There is no limitation of data. We have high amount of data. But the problem is how to use this data. And normally, all our approaches, in fact, should be data driven, where our future direction will be more promised and it will be more error free. Because past 10 years data tells us this. So in the 11th year, I can plan my activity very easily by seeing this 10 years data. I will not take any risk. I will have some assured outcome if I follow certain techniques based on the data of last 10 years, past 10 years. and accordingly I can decide my career. Say for example, in the last winter, how many Pierce soap units are sold in India? Pierce soap manufacturer will have the data. Last year, it was these many units. Last year, in the last 10 years, these are the data. Based on that, I will go for manufacturing appropriate number of Pierce soaps. So company should not meet with a loss. If the data is not there in excess, if they produce Pierce soaps, then probably we may have to dispose them off in a concessional rate after the winter is over. Here we can take so many factors like who is a competitor with us, how many units they are producing, what are the market shares, all those things you can think, and you can mine the data properly. You can you can make your decisions highly supported by the data what we have. And nowadays, for every activity we have a huge data. We have a huge data. Only thing we need to know, we need to design techniques of proper usage of data. So learning from data is also a technique of machine learning. It can be extended to any field like medical records, biological traits of human beings, engineering data. Everywhere we can design an entity which can learn by seeing past data, learning by example. We have these many examples, and based on these examples I want to take this kind of decision which is the most favorable decision for my career growth or for my betterment. But unfortunately, majority of the data that we have now is unstructured data. Unstructured data in the sense data is not available to us in the systematic form of tables. Medical records, if you go to describe what is that in the hospital we get while we come out of the hospital, discharge summary. If you see discharge summary of a patient who gets relieved from the hospital, it is written by different doctors in different way. There is no systematic format, even though it can be very systematically formatted. Doctor writes in their own handwriting. Doctor writes sometimes they use acronyms, sometimes they use expansions, and doctor's handwriting only God can read. And some prescriptions they write here, some prescriptions they write at some other place. So it's totally unstructured data. So our challenge in data mining is how to make this unstructured data into structured data, then use data mining, existing data mining approaches to learn more from them. Fine. Now we have reached a situation where programs will not solve the problems, but those programs should be written in such a way that they should analyze certain inputs, should be able to take a decision, better decision, by seeing many examples. Say for example, handwriting recognition. Handwriting recognition will have some broad steps. The task will not follow a specific algorithm. If it sees more examples, its performance is better. And this person to person. If my handwriting is to be recognized, identified, then system should know how I write A. And if it sees more A's written by me, it can easily take a decision to recognize A which is written by me. That kind of programming is known as learning examples, not by programming. not by programming, but by analyzing some existing data. Self-customization programs, self-learning programs. Morning, if I check what is the flight rate from Mangalore to Bangalore on so and so date, evening while I browse my mail, I get so many advertisements saying that you have cheapest price from Mangalore to Bangalore on this date. This is the operator. Means your activities are being observed by a computer and it is learning from your activity and it gives you recommendation. Those are called as self-learning or self-customizing programs. So these are now the approaches towards machine learning compared to earlier AI related, algorithmic related programs. The best machine learning algorithm, which was given by Tom Mitchell, he also has written a textbook, and this definition was given in 1998. It is more formal definition compared to the definition earlier, one more famous definition given in 1959 by Arthur Samuel. He said machine learning, field of studies that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. See, the approach towards being intelligent is not algorithmic. Is this concept was expressed in the definition of Arthur Samuel 1959. Still, we were not able to do a huge impact in the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning in these years. But now slightly we are moving towards that. The formal definition about machine learning is machine learning is a computer program. Again, you see algorithm has come into picture now. Computer program is nothing but an algorithm. Is said to learn from experience E. Experience E may be mistakes, maybe examples, whatever it is. It is learning from experience E with respect to some task T, some activity it has to do, and some performance measure P. It is learning from the experience of doing something T and whether it has done good or not. The performance measurement is done, that is P. If its performance on T as measured by P improves with experience E, then we can say that that entity is learning. Performance should improve as the experience is increased on a task T. This is an example with that. In this example, what we have is, let us take an example of how does your Gmail browser identifies spam mails? Actually, how does it do? Initially, some mails I have earmarked as spam. It learns my behavior. If I am marking all real estate related mails as spam, then in future also all real estate related mails are marked as spam and they go to spam folder. If all finance related aspects or say for example stock market related mails I'm interested in, then they will come to my mailbox. Say another person Y, if he is not at all interested in stock market related mails, he marked them as spam. So those will be spam for him. So the concept of spam is different from different users. Whatever is spam for me need not be spam for everyone. Fine. So initially it studies, the system study certain behavioral aspect of the user. Then it also checks some websites, standard things, websites, the way the messages are written, repetitive words, exaggerative words, all those things it checks. And finally, mail is marked as spam or not spam. And accordingly, it will be sent to one of the folders, either to inbox or spam box. You might also have observed many useful mails have gone to spam mailbox. That's an error. So this is a task. Classifying emails as spam or not spam is a task. What is the behavior or opinion of the user on these mails is an experience. The number of mails correctly classified as spam or not spam is a performance. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, this is, I think many of you know about this. I will not stress much time on this. It is in learning, we have supervised learning where we have labeled examples. Unsupervised learning, you have only situation you have to learn. Semi-supervised, some hint or some push will be there and you have to learn. Reinforcement learning, if you learn properly, there will be some rewards. If you don't learn, then there will be some punishments. Majority of our learning during our school days or college days is supervised learning. If you go to Indian mythology also, or Indian culture also, tradition also, Brahmacharya is a time where you have supervised learning. Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Most of the learning is unsupervised. Till 25 years, whatever you learn, you have books, you have scriptures, you have teachers to solve the doubts, you have exams to reinforce whatever you have learned, you have rewards, everything. The moment you come to the open world, you have only situation. Nobody is there to teach. You have to take a decision based on the situation around you. That is unsupervised learning. If your supervised learning phase is not perfect in your grahastha ashrama, then probably your unsupervised learning phase will be much tougher. So let's not go into the philosophical touch of this. But I think this is very simple concept and you know this and you have learned about it somewhere or the other place. Example of supervised learning. Majority of these slides are taken from some sources on internet. You also can see them there. So sometimes the things are as they are of different sources. They may not be familiar with us, like the housing price and housing house size is the one which is plotted here. Prices are in dollars. You can comfortably make them as rupees in Indian context. If a building is of some size in square feet, what will be its price? These 10 or 11 points, 4 plus 4, 11 points will have that data. That's the data. Say, for example, if you take this data, then for around 1000 square feet house, approximately $300,000. That's the way all these points are plotted. This is based on real world data. Fine. And you have done this activity in your childhood in 6th or 7th standard where you plotted a graph. You have a line equation y equal to mx plus c, and one was independent variable, another was dependent variable. Which is dependent variable in y equal to mx plus c? Any answer, Ankia? Ankia, sir.
Sir, up to now, no answer, sir.
Okay. In y equal to mx plus c, which is independent variable? Independent variable is y, dependent variable is x. No, dependent variable is y, independent variable is x, because you change the value of x and accordingly value of y changes. Y is dependent on x. Fine. and you had substituted values of x's in the interval of 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 like that, and a corresponding value of y you have computed, and you have plotted them on the plane, and you get it as get a line. You got a line. Fine. This is a similar activity. Two parameters are given. You can plot them on a plane. Y-axis is price, x-axis is size, and you have plotted this. This is from the real world data. Let's assume the same thing. This plotting or learning can be used for two purposes. One purpose is for regression, another purpose is for classification. Regression is predicting the unknown dependent value for a freshly given independent value, having that curve of behavior. Say for example, you have a line for x equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 corresponding value of y, and if you want to know value of y for x equal to 1.6, then what do? You line a parallel line to y axis from x equal to 1.6, then you reach that line. From there you draw a parallel to x axis or perpendicular to y axis. Wherever it cuts y axis, that will be the value of y. That way you can do. That's the regression example. Classification, in this example itself, you take, say for example, I have capability of purchasing only the houses whose price is less than $200,000. Then all the things which come, if I draw a line here at $200,000, everything that comes below is in my favor. Everything which comes above this line is not favorable to me. So I'm classifying them into yes or no, favorable, not favorable, based on certain threshold, by putting certain threshold. In this problem, if you put a threshold, then you will have part x and part y. This is a classification problem. Similarly, these are some basic stuff. Don't worry about this. Unsupervised learning. This is supervised because you have circles here, you have crosses here. These are red, these are blue. You have lot many things to understand that this is separate group and this is separate group. Supervised learning. In case of unsupervised learning, both of them are circles, both of them are blue. Then it is very difficult to identify. If you want to identify, you have to identify based on certain parameters. The value of x1 and x2. x2 above this value, x1 above this value will make a second class. So in unsupervised learning, what we do is only clustering because all of them are similar objects. You want to group them, but in supervised learning we call them as classes, different classes. Fine. Don't worry about all these things. The same example which we had taken before. We do a linear regression here. Linear regression means finding continuous values of dependent variable for any value of independent variable, and it is done using a formula of a line. Then it's called as linear regression. I can put a line here which represents mostly all these points, and that line will help me to predict the value of y, that is prices, for some randomly chosen value of x, that is size of the house. That's called as linear regression. Here, once I do linear regression, what I want my machine to do, I want my machine to learn a behavior of a line. So that behavior is called as a hypothesis, which is written here as H, hypothesis. So I have size of a house, input, and I have a learning algorithm. Then I have estimated price and output. This H hypothesis is line here. Means I want a machine to learn concept of line. Fine. How can it learn that concept? It can see more lines and it can understand what is a line, or it can understand the concept of line by mathematically modeling that line. You know mathematical expression for a line, y is equal to mx plus c. Same thing can be used to make machine learn about behavior of line. That's what it says said here. H theta of x. H theta of x is equal to y. Theta naught is a c. Theta 1 is m, and x. Y equal to mx plus c. It's a line equation. So basically it's a line equation. Fine. These are all the values, and such 47 values we have. These are all the values. These are all the values in along y. They're all the values along x. Then your hypothesis is line. You want to make use of a line to learn these concept. Fine. Simple. Don't worry much about that. See. If I have a line equation y equal to mx plus c, what is m here in the line equation? What is m?
Slope of the line.
M is
Slope of the line.
Slope of the line.
Yeah.
How do you calculate the slope? How do you, given a line, how do you calculate slope?
Y by x.
Is it y by x? Say for example, at any point value of y is 3 and value of x is 4. Then 3 by 4, is it a slope? Slope is change in y by change in x. That's why it's called as delta y by delta x. Delta y is x2 minus x1. Delta y is y2 minus y1. So y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1 is a slope. If a line is given to you, you can say first point and the last point, and you can compute y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. That's a slope. What is c? What is c?
Constant.
Constant. What does it tell about? Which constant it is? What is the physical meaning of this constant? It's called as y-intercept. Y-intercept means if you extend this line y equal to mx plus c, wherever it cuts y-axis is called as y-intercept. Means it cuts y-axis at point 2. Then 2 is y-intercept. If it cuts y-axis at 2.3, then 2.3 is y-intercept, value of c, something like that. By changing this value of m and c, theta 1 and theta naught, you will have different orientations of lines. If you change the slope, if you change the y-intercept, the orientation of the line changes. The next slide tells you that. So here, what is c? C is where it cuts y-axis. 1.5 is a c. This is 1.5. What is x? dy by dx, y2 minus y1 by x2 minus y1, x1. So here, if you take this point, the parameters of this point are 3, 1.5. The parameter of this point are 0, 1.5. If you take y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, y2 is 1.5, y1 is 1.5. 1.5 minus 1.5 is 0. 0 by something is 0. So 0x. Slope is 0. Y-intercept is 1.5. Then the equation of this line is y is equal to 1.5 or h of x is equal to 1.5. This is a line. Now slightly change the orientation of the line. Line is passing through origin. Means it is cutting y-axis at 0. So your c is 0. C is 0. And what is dy by dx? So you take it, this is 3, this is 2. So this is 3, 2 and this is 2, 1. 2 comma 1. If you take y2 minus y1, this is y2 is 2, y1 is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1, divided by x2 minus x1. x2 is 3 here, x2 is 2 here. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 1 by 2 is 0.5. That is m. So equation of this line is y equal to mx 0.5x. Similarly, this also you can calculate. Fine. Means by changing value of theta 0 and theta 1, you can have the lines with different orientations and differently positioned. If you can make this behavior learnt by your machine, then your machine has learnt behavior of line. So that's what it has to learn. It has to learn to decide the value of theta 0 and theta 1. So choose parameters theta 0 and theta 1 so that h is close to y for our training examples. You have y and x parameters and you have 47 examples, training examples. And you want to represent all these training examples by means of a line. So you need to choose m and c properly, theta 0 and theta 1 properly, so that it represents the points, which 47 points which were given earlier. So once you draw a line here to represent this point, once you draw a line here, the line does not go through all the points. If the line is going through all the points, it is exactly learning these points. But exact learning is not good. It should learn the general scenario. If it learns exactly these points, probably it will not be able to understand what is this point, because it has learned only what is this point, this point, this point. It will not be able to learn this. So if it can learn some general behavior of a line, it learns every other object of that class. So that is called as, if that learning curve passes through all these points, it's called as overfitting. It has learnt only given examples. It has not learnt any other examples of the same class. The line which you draw may not be properly representing this class. That is underfitting. Both overfitting and underfitting are difficult in the case of machine learning. Probably this line, if you draw a line like this, then that would be a better line which learns all behaviors of the points with respect to linear regression. Let us assume if you fit this line to represent this class of points, the line is passing through exactly some points, some 2-3 points, but other points are slightly either above or below the line. That is called as error in prediction. You are doing prediction based on this line, but actual values are either little above or little below. That is error. So that error will help us to decide the parameters. Here the error is, you see, h theta means y of xi and yi. Yi is the actual value of that plot, and this is a predicted value from that line equation. If you take a difference of these two things, then you get error. Actual value minus predicted value, you get an error. Sometimes error can be positive, sometimes it can be negative. To remove this negative sign, I take a square. And this whole term, I'll take a summation over all points. I have m equal to 47 points. With respect to all points, I check what are the predicted values and actual values. I take the difference, I take the square, I add all of them, and I take average 1 by m. I take average, don't worry about this 2, 1 by m. So what is this whole parameter? What is this whole value? I have taken mean, I have taken square, and this is the error. What it is? Hmm? I'm not able to see. I'm hearing somebody is making the microphone on.
No, sir.
No, some disturbance I'm hearing. It's fine, not a problem. This is mean squared error. This is mean squared error. You might have heard in almost all machine learning algorithms, we use this term for performance measurement. That is mean squared error. So this, the way I fit the line should be finally to keep this mean squared error minimum. To keep this mean squared error minimum. So what I do, my goal is minimize j theta 0 theta 1. J theta 0 theta 1 is nothing but mean squared error. The value of j theta 0 theta 1 is to be minimized over theta 0 and theta 1. That is my goal, error minimization. Fine. How can we do this? Given a function, we want to minimize with respect to one variable. Partial differentiation we do. That was done here. Where was it done? Okay, this is partial differentiation comes later. Before that, it is gradient descent. Gradient descent in the sense, I'm at one position. I want to achieve the optimal value. Optimal value means either it can be minimized or maximized. In this case, it is minimizing the error. Assume that I'm standing on the error plane. In all directions around me, I put one step towards left, right, northeast, northwest, every north, south, everywhere. Whichever is giving lesser value, that is a better value than present value because I am on an error plane. My aim is to minimize the error. From my present step, if I take one step in any other direction, if that value is less, then that is lesser error, minimized error. I move to that position, new position. Likewise, I continue till I'll not be able to reach any new position, new minimized position. That is called as gradient descent. The next diagram, you will see what gradient descent is. I am at this position. I want to come to this position. I will check all the places around here. If you move in the upward direction, the error will be increased. I will not follow that. I will come down, come down, come down. The moment I reach this point, I will not be able to reduce error anymore because in any direction if I move, the value of error will be increased. Fine. This gradient descent. Gradient descent sometimes will give global optima. Sometimes it may end up in local optima. It depends upon which is the initial point that you choose. If you reach here, still you have lesser values or points with the lesser values. But you have already reached some minimum. It is a local minima, not global minima. So how do we do this? We do it by taking partial differentiation with respect to theta j. Once j is theta 0, another time j is theta 1. These are the same thing. Alpha is called as a learning rate. Learning rate is how fast you put steps in any one of the directions. Fine. This is theta 0, theta 1. Finally, you have these values. This theta 0, theta 1 means these are the values of y and m in a line. That will decide the line. So if you want to pictorially represent this, this is initially decided line with some values of theta 0 and theta 1. These are the points to be represented. This line I want to fit to represent these points. And I go for gradient descent. Each time I apply the gradient descent, slowly this line moves and finally it converges when it best represents this line, this set of points. You see that? So now line has moved from this point to this point. Slowly it is moving. You can observe. This is one of the outputs of experiment. This is the line, orientation of the line that best fits all these points. Its y-intercept is 160 or something like that, and y-intercept means c. And slope you can anyway compute. Take 2 points, dy by dx, you can compute. This is how here you are able to decide theta 0 and theta 1 means machine has learned to fit a line for these given points. That is, machine is learning linear behavior of set of points. So this way I can make machine learn the concept of line. Similarly, in neural network and all, what you use is you use linear regression is one learning component. Logistic regression, you might have heard that logistic regression is nothing but sigmoid function. If you make your machine to learn that sigmoid function, S kind of function, then that is logistic regression. Now I think we can stop. I made an effort simply to explain how machine can learn the concept of line. This line will be more fine-tuned if you have more points here. That's why it's called as learning by examples. Fine. If you have any doubts, you can ask question. Otherwise, later also, if you want to consult me, you can consult through organizers. Thank you.
I think any questions from respected participants? Thank you for your wonderful session, sir. It is
thank you, Ankya sir.
It is very useful for all the young researchers who can work on the machine learning intelligence. A very novel concept you have raised, sir. Yeah, thank you once again, sir.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Sir, thank you on
Santosh,
behalf
sir.
of School of Tripoli. It was an excellent presentation, sir. We were expecting that physically if you had come here, it would have helped us. We are planning to invite you. Let us see, sir. Such a good concept, and our students, some of our students are working in this area now. They have started.
Yeah.
So they may seek your help in that regard, and they may go through your papers also, sir.
Yes, sir.
Related to this hidden Markov model and all. Anyway, thank you. Thanks for the presentation, sir.
Thank
it was
you,
indeed
sir.
a best to reach, I guess, all our students and heterogeneous crowd, I meant to say.
Okay,
thank
sir.
you.
Thanks a lot for opportunity, Santosh sir.
Okay, sir. It's
okay,
a pleasure.
Sir.
Thank you.
Bye.